Om Nilambujasyamalakomalangam Sita Samaropitavamabhagam Panau Maha Sayakacharu Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvanshanatham. Allusions to Lord Rāma, whose complexion is like a blue lotus, is very tender and delightful in appearance. Sita is seated on his left side and is carrying a powerful bow and arrow in his hands. In Bala Kanda of the Ramayana by Sri Swami Tulsi Goswami Tulsidas. Presently, Doha number 47 onwards. The setting for telling the story of Rama, that setting is being brought to your attention. And just to recall those points, Bharadwaj asked sage Yajnavalkya to relate to him the story of the Ramayana. And Yajnavalkya now commences telling this story. And he says to Bharadwaja, Kahaun so mati anuhari, ab uma sambhu samvad, bhayau samay jahi hetu jahi, sunu muni mitihi viṣāda. According to my understanding, this is an expression of humility. Even in the beginning, one says, the story of Rama, the glory of God is beyond human imaginations. But according to my understanding, I will relate to you. So forgive me for my shortcomings. I will relate to you the dialogue that took place between Uma and Śaṁbhu. Uma is Pārvatī Devi. Uma and Pārvatī both are synonyms. Śaṁbhu and Shiva are synonyms. So, the dialogue that took place between Pārvatī and Shiva, that dialogue is being presented before you as the Ramayana. But how did that dialogue commence? What led Shiva tell the story of Rama to Pārvatī Devi? That itself is a big story. Pārvatī in her previous embodiment was Satī Devi, daughter of Daksha. And just to give you a simple outline, all these stories are allegorical. They have profound philosophy behind them. Philosophy and mystic psychology. Satī represents understanding that is not intuitional, sharpness of intellect, is wedded to your soul. Soul is Shiva. But Shiva-Satī combination will not bring about the glory of Rama. Rama is state of truth, state of liberation. In simple terms, without going through so much suspense, intellect is led to be burnt up. This story will be coming. We'll give you all the details. Daksha is ego, rajasic, tamasic. And after Satī gets burnt up, she incarnates as the daughter of Himalayas. Himalayas represent sublimity of knowledge. Now the daughter is sensitive to intuitional knowledge. Her name is Uma, Pārvatī. Uma is same as Om, just move the letters around. A-U-M, U-M-A. All this is extremely interesting story, and it has gone on in India through so many dramas and cinema shows. But here our emphasis is understanding the subtler mystical meaning. So that's what Yajnavalkya proposes, that I'm going to relate to you the dialogue that took place between Uma and Śaṁbhu, between Shiva and Pārvatī. How did it all happen? Listen to it, O sage, Bharadwaj. As a result, mitihi viṣāda. Viṣāda term is synonym with shok. Shok means sorrow. Having listened to it, your sorrows will be destroyed. Another word for it is grief. It's like I have told in the Gita. The brief of the Gita is you grieve over things not worth grieving for. And therefore don't grieve. But in between these two sentences, there is the entire Gita philosophy. The reality of human life is a lot of unnecessary grief. Mind is always carrying a burden. The goal, enlightenment, is that state where the grief has moved away forever. And that's the purpose of the scriptures. Now the story continues. Ek baar Tretā yuga mahi, Śaṁbhu gaye kumbhaja rishi pahi, Sanga Satī jaga janani bhavani, Puje rishi akhileshwara jani. In Tretā Yuga, in a storyline and in history line, 4 yugas go to form one cycle. So many cycles of 4 yugas go to form one day of Brahma. And 100 years of Brahma belongs to one Brahma. Next Brahma comes with the another. All these details, I'm not giving importance to them. There is storytelling. But just to understand the yugas, there are 4 yugas described. Every one goes through those 4 stages, if not in daily life, maybe within a month, sometimes more often, sometimes little distant. In simple terms, if you are full of sattva, you are in Satya Yuga. And in Satya Yuga, if you see a demon, you see it very clearly. So there is no effort on your part to recognize who is a demon and who is not. And so if you have Satya Yuga type of mind, you invoke Narasingha, man, lion, that tears up ignorance apart. I will not go into this story, but I did. Just a little mistake. In Tretā Yuga, you are moving away from sattva and mixing up with rajas. And tamas is implied, but in small proportion. In fact, all the 3 gunas play a great role in Tretā Yuga. Tre is 3. It is in that yuga that God incarnated as a Rāma. And going to another stage, when rajas begins to be dominated by tamas, and sattva is becoming attenuated, there comes Dvāpara Yuga. In Dvāpara Yuga, there is a mixture. Some demons, you recognize them when you look at them. Hidimba, and many other names of the demons are there. Jarasandha. Some demons look like wonderful personalities. Duryodhana, Karna, but they are all demoniac qualities. The idea is the distinction between good and evil is not so easy in Dvāpara Yuga. In that Yuga, Krishna incarnated, and whole the Mahabharata story unfolds the glory of Krishna and his part. Kali Yuga is what generally people describe the present age, but all this, that's allegorical. In Kali Yuga, there is predominance of terroristic activities and waning of righteousness to a very great extent. And that yuga is corrected by Buddha. Lord Vishnu incarnates as a Buddha in Kali Yuga. And then there is another room open for God to incarnate in an unexpected manner. But very popularly, these 4 yugas, they relate to your 4 levels of your experiences. In the morning, you can be in Satya Yuga. A little later, you go into Tretā Yuga. A little later, you are in Dvāpara Yuga by the afternoon. And by the evening, burdened with sorrow, etc., you make up your mind that evil is the right thing. I mean, evil is reality. Not right thing, it's reality. In other words, you are facing different moods, but you are the controller of those moods. And there is a mystic potentiality by which you can allow Satya Yuga to dominate your whole life, whole daily life. I will not go further in detail. I will move into this story. So in Tretā Yuga, that's where Rama had incarnated. And during that time, Sita was kidnapped. Let's see how the Ramayana is putting it. In Tretā Yuga, Śaṁbhu gaye Kumbhaja Ṛṣi pahi. Lord Śaṁbhu, Lord Śiva, along with Satī, they went to a sage who is known as Kumbhaja Ṛṣi. Another name and more popular is Agastya Ṛṣi. He is the embodiment of jnāna, knowledge. Agastya is another name for sun god. He was effulgent like the sun. And a story relates to him that once gods pleaded before Agastya that the demons are growing in the ocean and they cannot be targeted by gods. Agastya sipped the ocean in 3 sips. Scientific people start thinking about some advanced technique that was adopted that turned the ocean into atoms and electrons. But the simple idea is, first Kumbhaja term, born of pot. Kumbha is pot. Every soul abides in a pot. Ghat mein, ghat is another term. But every soul is Kumbhaj. You are born in a pot. But if you are able to sip the ocean of the world process in 3 steps, AUM, physical, subtle and causal, then you become Kumbhaja Ṛṣi. Sanga Satī Jaga Janani Bhavani Puje Ṛṣi Akhileshwara Jani. Lord Śiva and Satī Devi, they visited that ashram of Kumbhaja Ṛṣi. And the Rishi, sage, knowing Shiva to be the Lord of the universe, worshipped Shiva along with Bhavani, Shiva's consort, Satī Devi. Rama Katha Muni Varja Bakhani, Suni Mahesha Param Sukhamani. And for pleasing Shiva, Agastya Ṛṣi told Rama Katha, the story of Rama, the way he had understood. And Lord Shiva was highly pleased. Rishi Puchi Hari Bhagati Suhai, Kahi Śaṁbhu Adhikari Pai. Having told the Ramayana to Shiva, and Shiva being very pleased, he said, ask, O sage, anything I will give to you. And the sage said, give me Hari Bhagati, devotion to Rama, devotion to Lord Hari, which is the same. And Shiva, knowing the sage was Adhikari, highly qualified, he related the story of Rama to the sage. Behind all these talks, what is being highlighted? Agastya, who is the embodiment of wisdom, finds himself deficient. That deficiency is being fulfilled by his entering into the study of Ramayana and receiving Shiva's grace. Shiva gives him the special insight into bhakti. So from the very beginning, Ramayana is giving you insight into jnana and bhakti. Jnana, that's generally people reading Upanishads, their minds become very immersed in attaining pure wisdom. But wisdom has a connotation of dryness. It's negating everything. Nothing exists, nothing belongs to me. And if you end up being absolutely dry, you are not really attaining liberation. Correct that deficiency in the dry process of learning Vedanta. Add bhakti to it. And understand the goal you are reaching through your intellect after terrible study of Upanishads, etc. That goal will become easier if you have bhakti in your heart. And later you will forget about all the tough stuff. The bhakti will engross your heart. So, in a subtle way, of so many religious literature, Tulsi Ramayana points out, this literary work of Ramayana has a special effect. It excels most of that literature. Kahat sunat raghupati gun gatha, kuch din taha rahe girinata, munisan vida mangi tripurari, chale bhavana sang daksha kumari. So for a few days, Shiva and Satī stayed with the ashram doing the charcha of Rama. Someone brought up a riddle about church. The riddle is, it is Krishna in the beginning, Krishna in the end. CH in the beginning, CH in the end. And in between, you are. It's apart from the joke. That's called charcha. Talking about God. Lifting your mind from all these earthly problems and news that go on breaking until the mind itself breaks into pieces. And the end result is nothing substantial. But if you create a satsanga atmosphere with good-heartedness, that charcha becomes a powerful movement to remedy all the troubles that you face individually, the troubles that society faces, in a collective manner, remedying all troubles. The sovereign remedy is charcha, jnana yajna, disseminating knowledge. Knowledge where bhakti and jnana blend, not one-sided knowledge. And predominance is to be given to bhakti. Having understood jnana a lot, and your mind says, oh, I understand. But if a heart does not feel the sweetness of love, your study is not effective. So bhakti is the most unmistakable characteristic of your spiritual advancement. But bhakti again should not be just limited to emotion. It should be related to your chitta shuddhi, nirmal man, mind free of malas, free of distractions and so forth. So after all the charcha that went on, Lord Śiva, along with the daughter of Daksha, Satī Devi, they proceeded towards Kailasha mountain. They are like an aerial car in a plane, looking down, an aerial view of what's going on. Tehi avasara bhanjana mahi bhara, hari raghubansa kinha avatara. At that time, Lord Vishnu, Lord Hari, had incarnated as a Rama in the family of Raghus, Raghuvansh, and his purpose was to destroy demoniac forces, dark forces. Obeying the words of his father, abandoning his kingdom, he was passing through Dandaka forest. That's the storyline which you will hear again in a more detail. But before you go into that, just to give you the meaning, Dandaka. Danda refers to stick. Some sannyasis, they hold a stick with 3 prongs called Tridandi Swami that relate to a pledge of controlling manasa vacha karmana, mind, speech and action. So that atmosphere where you can practice control over your mind, over your speech and your action, that Dandaka forest. So don't look for big forest where lions and tigers dwell. Now, according to the storyline, Shiva was passing over the Dandaka forest and he was eager to have darshan of Rama. When Shiva and Rama, 2 deities, are mentioned, Shiva represents knowledge, jnana, embodiment. And Vishnu refers to bhakti, embodiment of bhakti, devotion. And these two are interdependent. So in one context, Rama becomes the worshipper. In another context, Shiva becomes the worshipper. They mutually worship each other. So now, because of his intense devotion to Rama, Shiva began to think within himself, how can I have darshan of Rama? You could have easily said, look from a distance. I will not lead you there, but the idea is, if Shiva is seen adoring Rama, then Rama's avatar was a secret. Rama is acting as a human being and he is looking for Sita as if Sita is kidnapped. But Sita is never separated from Rama. That story you will see in the Ramayana. So, Rama, Lakshmana, they are playing a drama. In a drama, if actors play pathetic part, an audience lifts up the screen and goes after helping them. That will spoil the whole drama. In other words, considering this point, Shiva waited for a proper opportunity. Hridaya vicharat jata har kehi vidhi darshan hoi gupta rupa avatare prabhu gaye jaan sab koi. Shiva was reflecting these points in his heart. How can I have darshan of this divine incarnation? He has incarnated in a secret manner. If I seek darshan, everybody will come to know his incarnation. Sankara ur ati chobhu Satī na janahi maram soi. All this goes on with Shiva. But Satī, who is not at the level of intuitive intellect, is unable to understand how is Shiva occupied in his mind. Tulsi darsana lobh mandaru lochana lalachi. Shiva was concerned that this secret will no longer remain secret if he were to approach Rama. But at the same time, his eyes were yearning to have darshan of Rama. While that was going on at the higher level, as he is watching from a distance, aerial view, time passes on. In the higher level, the time moves. It may be 1 hour there. Here on earth, it may be a whole week. Just giving you an idea of relativity. Ravan maran manuj kar jacha, Prabhu vidhi bachano kin chah sacha, jo nahi jaun rahai pachitawa, karat bicharu na bharat banawa. Ravana had asked Brahma for a boon. The boon that he would be killed only by monkey and human being. As the story will coming more in detail, Ravana practices a lot of austerity. When Brahma ask any boon, I will give to you. The intention of Ravana was to become immortal. He asked for immortality, but Brahma says immortality, ask anything else. Then he thought within his mind that may I become invulnerable to all creatures except to please Brahma, man and monkey. In his mind, man, from demon level, man is nothing. He's a little rasgulla, a tasty stuff. The monkey is like mosquitoes. And Brahma granted that boon. And Ravana thereby thought he has become immortal. Because how can he be killed by man and monkey? With that boon, empowered by that boon, Ravana kidnaps Sita. Sita is the embodiment of Vivek Buddhi, intuitive knowledge. Ravana is ignorance. Ignorance as if kidnaps. Vivek Buddhi is there within you but becomes latent, hidden. And you have to practice yoga, etc. to let Rama in you kill Ravana. And when that happens, Sita emerges from hidden state of intuitive. Sita emerges as intuitive intellect and joins with the soul, that's Rama. All that story will come to you gradually. But behind this story, understand there is a powerful philosophy. Coming to the storyline, what's happening while Shiva is up there in the air, having an aerial view. While Mahadev, Shiva, was concerned for having a darshan of Rama, this low-minded Ravana, taking his attendant Marich with him, planned to kidnap Sita. Maricha became a deer, a golden deer, and began to roam around the ashram, the kutir where Sita Rama dwelt. Rama was away, and Sita sees the deer. He runs to where Rama was and says, "O Rama, get me that deer. It will be such a wonderful pet when we go back to Ayodhya. And if there is any difficulty, get me the deer skin." And Rama doesn't oppose her, because that was Rama's plan, and also Sita's plan in a subtle way. Rama goes after that Maricha, and the deer takes Rama deeper into the forest. And while Rama is busy with the deer, just to tell you this story, the deer, Rama ultimately discharges an arrow, a fatal arrow. And deer, at the time of dying, assumes the voice of Rama and cries out, "O Sita, O Lakshmana," as if Rama was in danger. Sita hears and says to Lakshmana, "Go, your brother is in trouble." And Lakshmana says, "No, my brother cannot be in trouble." But Sita scolds him. Lakshmana goes out. Now the ashram is without Rama, Lakshmana, without anyone to protect the dangerous situations. And Ravana then comes and kidnaps Sita. All these are further detailed as the story continues. Just at that time, when Ravana has kidnapped Sita, Rama returns with Lakshmana and Rama grieves. Where is Sita? In grief, he begins to ask even the trees, "Have you seen my Vaidehi, my Sita?" At that time, Shiva has a full view of Rama. And in keeping him in full view, he says, "Jaya Saccidānanda." Glory to existence, knowledge, bliss absolute. And Satī saw it. It couldn't understand. Shiva, who is God of gods, should bow down with such humility to a person who couldn't protect his own wife and who has lost his rationality because his wife has been kidnapped. How could trees tell him where the Sita was? To that person, Shiva is offering his adoration. Now you have to figure out the subtlety of bhakti. Bhakti requires that type of humility to enter into human heart. Kari chalu moodha hari vaidehi, Prabhu prabhavo jagat vidit natehi. During that time, the dull-wit Ravana, adopting a deceptive plan, kidnapped Sita. He was unaware of Rama's real nature. When Rama returned with Lakshmana, seeing his ashram void of Sita, his eyes were filled with tears. Viraha vikal nara iva raghurayi, khojat vipin firat do bhai, kabahun yog viyog न जाके, देखा प्रगट विरह दुख ताके, Rama acts like a human being. He for whom there is no union and separation. He is the absolute self. And Lakshmana is cosmic mind. And now they are acting like as if they have lost a dear one and they are in intense misery behind all the picture of that pathetic picture being given to you. A broad message is, soul in you is Rama. And you find in a predicament where seems to be such pathetic situation, the world has robbed you of your happiness. And your heart has broken, pieces have fallen here, pieces have fallen there. एक दिल के टुकड़े हजार हुए. But behind all this, nothing has happened to your soul. In essential nature of the soul is Brahman. And Viveka Buddhi is another essential potentiality that's always there with Brahman. But due to limitation of mind, you are looking into your life, experiencing the world through a conditioned mind. Just like you enter into dream, the mind becomes furthermore conditioned. And many things you begin to experience, and nothing of that is real. In waking state also, nothing is real. And yet, lot of torment, lot of torture, every soul has to go through. Deep down, that understanding has to enter. I am Brahman. Kabahu yoga viyoga na jake. For whom there is no gain, no loss. No union, no separation. Aham Brahmasmi. Ati vichitra raghupati charit. Janahi param sujan. Ye mati manda vimoha bas. Hridaya dharahi kachuan. The story of Rama. Ram Charitra. How does Rama conduct himself through the problems of life? Only jñānīs, those who are highly enlightened, they can understand and appreciate Ram Charitra. The stories, behind the stories, the spiritual insight that is implied, it requires a highly advanced mind to probe into the subtle mysteries behind that story. Those who are manda buddhi, those who have dull intellect, they draw faulty conclusions from the study of Ramayana out of moha, out of deluded emotions. And that applies to all religions. When people think of Jesus, they're always thinking of, did Jesus really talk to Satan? Did the devil take him to the mountain? Or was it just somebody creating a story? Let's look for the mountain. Find a little footprint. If you can't do it, the story is wrong. But that's not the purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is to develop devotion to God. The stories can be told in many ways. The stories are not the substance behind religion, but finger pointing, what the stories are pointing to, that's where you have to go after. Śaṁbhu samay tehi Rama hi dekha, upajahi ati harashu vishekha. At that time, Lord Śiva found good opportunity to look at Rama. Bhari lochan chhabi sindhu nihari, kusamay jani na kinha bichinhari. And he opened his eyes wide, looked at Rama and looked at Rama. enjoyed seeing him. Chavi Sindhu, the beauty of Rama was like this ocean. The ocean of Rama's beauty. And Shiva's eyes were a mystic vision that looked at the entire ocean and as if enfolded it. Bhari lochan. The eyes became full. Purnamata. See, these are, every writing in Ramayana is very profound. People don't go after it. So that's what Shiva did. And knowing that was not a proper opportunity, he did not reveal his presence. But he simply said, Jaya Saccidānanda Jagapavan, As kahi chale manojana savan, Chale jata siva Satī sameta, Puni puni pulakat kripa niketa. Glory to Saccidānanda, Jagapavan, he who is the purifier of the whole world. That's the purpose of avatar. God descending into the world for removing the burden of negative dark forces and creating purified atmosphere. And that God, his full name is Saccidānanda. Sat, absolute existence. Chit, pure consciousness. Ananda, absolute joy. These three are one and the same. Having uttered Saccidānanda, Lord Śiva, who is Manojana Savan, Manoj relates to Kamadeva, Cupid God, that enchants mind. And that Shiva destroyed Cupid God. That story will be coming in the Ramayana. In other words, 2 points are even Shiva's seeing Rama with full vision and Shiva, embodiment of Nirmal Man, mind that is absolutely pure, the mind that has blown away all cravings, all desires. Satī sodasa sambhu kai dekhi, urupaja sandeha visheki, sankaru jagad bandhya sagadisha, suranar muni sabanavata sisa. Now Satī Devi looked at Shiva's face and a tremendous doubt enters her mind. This whole world worships Shiva. Gods, human beings, sages, all bow down to Shiva. There is no one greater than Shiva. Kinna nirpasutahi kinna paranama, kahi Saccidānanda paradhama. He bowed down before the son of a king, calling him Saccidānanda. And that's not enough. Bhaya Magan Chavi, seeing his form, his divine glory, he entered into ecstasy. Though he wanted to hide it in his heart, he couldn't hide it. Brahma jo vyapak virajaj, akal aniha bhed, so ki deh dhari hoi nar, jahi na janata ved. How can that be possible? Brahman, who is all permeating, beyond Maya, unborn, beyond the reach of mind and senses, desireless, differentiationless. Even the Vedas come up with neti, neti. They don't say, oh, Brahman is not this, not this. How can that Brahman be a human being grieving over something lost? That big puzzle entered the mind. And for removing that doubt of Satī, the whole foundation of Ramayana is prepared, how all that happens. And with this I will conclude for today. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.